What's up, guys? It's Dwayne, back again for another video, back in for the reaction, and today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day because it's a Germany day. How the internet in Germany is totally different than in Britain. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
In the same DW article that I mentioned before, they expanded on the internet and tech situation in Germany by saying, in a recent EU report, Germany was ranked 21st out of the bloc's 27 member countries, plus the UK, when it comes to offering online services to its citizens.
You'd rank 21st out of the bloc's 27. I wonder where we ranked. I know it wasn't that low.
Several months into the pandemic, health authorities were still reporting case numbers using fax machines. People...
What? Fax machines? Guys, come on now.
People had problems working from home due to patchy internet connections, and across the country, schools lacked basic technology for remote learning. Now, statements like these offer a pretty bleak view of the internet in Germany, and is probably a pretty broad overgeneralization. So I want to share with you what our personal experience has been, and I want to start by focusing on one thing mentioned in that article, and one thing Germany has become somewhat infamous for: patchy and slow internet connections. To benchmark,
as a YouTuber, guys, as a YouTuber, that is the bane of my life. And it's not so much download speeds, but it's upload speeds. I cannot deal with upload speeds that are really, really, really slow. So let me know how bad it is in Germany. Like, I'm guessing, I don't know if you guys do as much uploading as I do, but oh my God. I don't know if I can be in Germany and do YouTube. Nah, I'll be totally fine. I'm sure it's not across the board. I'm sure there are some internet providers that use faster internet. Let me know in the comment section how bad it is.
according to speedtest.net, the US ranks number 13 in the world for average fixed broadband speed, with an average download speed of 203.81 megabits per second. Rather than try and talk about the entire US, I'll focus on where we are from, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is the opposite of densely populated and for the most part fairly rural. It ranks nearly dead center in 26th in broadband access amongst US states. Only 25.9% of Oklahomans have access to fiber optic service, but 78.1% at least have access to broadband 100 megabits per second or faster. Note, that is data for having access, not necessarily actually paying for having speeds that fast. Germany, on the other hand, ranks all the way down at 35th in the world with an average download speed of 136.66 megabits per second, which honestly did surprise me that the average speed in Germany was that high. There are other factors.
That sounds pretty good, to be honest. It doesn't sound bad. 36 and 130. I can deal with that. Maybe this is just all a bit of hype. Maybe this is not true. Let's see.
Factors that can hinder speeds to consider as well. For example, German homes tend to be built with much thicker and denser walls than American homes, which can
mess with Wi-Fi. We have that in England as well. If the router is in a certain room in the house and you're in another room in the house in England, you can have a problem with spotty connection just because of the thick walls. So we have that problem too. So if that's what he's talking about, that's not a problem. You just need to work by your router.
Can hinder Wi-Fi connections. With all the horror stories that we heard about internet speeds in Germany, and based on their global rank with internet, we expected when we got here to struggle with very slow internet connection. And in particular, since we make YouTube videos, we thought for sure it would make uploading them more difficult. But for our needs, and honestly, based on what we have experienced in other parts of the globe, we certainly haven't had a complaint about our internet most of the time, and it has been fine for our particular needs.
So then it's fine. Then you guys, this is all myth and legend. It's totally fine. 133 megabits per second sounds quite fast. It doesn't sound like you have a problem with internet. I don't know.
Our internet is by no means blazing fast, and for the internet package that we have, we get only about 40 to 43 megabits per second download and around 4 megabits per.
If I'm being honest, that's the average speed for me in the UK as well. You can get faster though. We have fast fiber optic where you can get like over 100 megabits per second. I know my dad has that in his home, so you can get fast connections, but that's like the average speed for like an average internet package in the UK. I want to know what the upload is though.
It's per second upload, but that is also
the upload is pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
So when only one person is using it and with one wall between me and the router. It is not uncommon for our internet to slow down to the 20 megabits per second range. In Germany, fiber optic cables have been invested in only a few specific places to deliver the best internet speeds. As of June of 2020, Cologne had the best coverage of fiber optic cables at about 80%, Munich at 75%, Hamburg at 72%, and then that is when it all drops off, and in particular, rural parts of the country. In Germany,
wait, where's Berlin? Where's Berlin?
And then that is when it all drops off. And
okay. You know, when I've been doing the videos of like where I'm going to visit in Germany, maybe Berlin's not the greatest place for internet. You don't have fiber optic. Cologne's the best. And I really like the look of Cologne. And Munich. And I was definitely comparing these parts of Munich, Hamburg, and Cologne to Berlin.
And in particular, rural parts of the country. In Germany, most internet is delivered by old copper wires where fiber optic cables haven't been put in. We are actually about to move homes within the same town here in Germany, and when we looked at the connections available to the new home from the different major providers, we were looking at only having up to 16 megabits per second download speed available to us unless we got a special LTE plan from Telecom. However, that was until our future landlord informed us that they actually just put in fiber optic cables to the house and we could get much faster internet, and probably the fastest internet we have ever personally had. But I do want to know from you, what are your internet speeds generally, and what have you experienced in terms of internet connections in Germany or other parts of the world?
Internet for me is so important. Clearly, I'm communicating with you guys through the internet, and my speeds are very fast, but I'm currently in Asia. I'm in Thailand, and in Thailand, really weirdly, really great internet, really fast. But when I move back to the UK, which is not very long, I think I'm going to move back to the UK next year, or the end of this year. Yeah, I'm going to have to find somewhere that has really good internet. But I will find it.
Real quick, I do want to run a little test. Let's see how long your internet and mine takes to send me a notification that you have liked and subscribed to this channel. So go ahead and hit those buttons and run this little test with me. I am absolutely not an expert in European or American data laws, but one thing we did not expect as we have lived in Germany and wanted to keep in touch with the local news back home is that many, if not most, American local news websites geo-block European visitors from their sites. Geoblocking simply means that a site blocks users from accessing it purely based on the geography that they are accessing it from.
But you can just use a VPN.
For example, if we want to access our home city's local news, KFOR, if we go to their website, we get this message. But it isn't just our small capital city's news. It is also higher profile sites like the New York Daily News or Orlando Sentinel. A 2018 article by the BBC explains this by saying, the websites went dark in Europe after the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, law came into force on the 25th of May. GDPR gives EU citizens more rights over how their information is used. Under GDPR, companies working in the EU or providing a service to people within the EU must show that they have a lawful basis for processing personal data or face hefty fines. Some news agencies and other websites in the US have come up with ways to be able to comply with the EU regulations so that us over here are able to access their websites. But even 3 years on, there are still a lot of websites that have clearly determined there aren't enough Europeans interested in small local American news sites to change in order to accommodate those visitors and EU regulations.
I wonder if it's different for the UK because now we're not in the EU, so we don't really have those GDPR, rules in place. I don't know. I've not really tried to access, like you said, small little US outlets of news because you can find all the news you need on social media. Guys, if you're enjoying this, make sure you subscribe because I know not a lot of you have subscribed, and I love having German subscribers, so please subscribe. And like if you like the video. Let's go.
And sites back home geo-blocking us from accessing them is not the only thing that the GDPR also changed in how we experience the internet over here. One thing we also notice every single time we want to access a website once we moved over here is that any and nearly all websites we get on, we never get to just simply surf that site from the moment that we click on their link. Instead, we always have an annoying pop-up asking us to give consent for cookies. Now, I say it is super annoying, and I find that it is in a minor way, but termsfeed.com writes, on the face of it, cookie banners may seem like an unnecessary annoyance, but there is a reason that governments are becoming more concerned about regulating online business activity.
So in America, they don't have cookie pop-ups. We have them all over in the UK. Since I moved to Thailand, actually, I haven't seen those pop up as much. So yeah, I think they're a good thing because, you know, that's how they track you. That's how companies track you, and can be unlawfully tracking you without your consent, which is not good, is it? So I actually don't mind those pop-ups.
Along with the GDPR, the e-privacy directive was passed, and websites needing to comply with these new e-regulations have had to add a pop-up that looks something like a variation of this, and you have to either give or deny consent to their cookies. In the US, however, asking for consent to cookies is not required and therefore isn't always requested. To confirm this, I did some very important journalistic and scientific research by texting my brother in the US, asking if he has to answer any annoying pop-ups every time he gets on a website in the US, and his reply was, I think that may just be a Europe thing. I feel like I get that pop-up very rarely. It happens sometimes, but definitely not all the time. Therefore, in the US, he is still surfing an internet bliss as he simply clicks on a website and just immediately starts scrolling for his entertainment and
Is that internet bliss or is that internet invasion of privacy? Do you know what I mean? Like, literally can just go on a website and that website can track him all over the internet. Track everything that he likes to watch, everything he likes to purchase. It's actually pretty bad. So I'm quite happy that the EU and hopefully the UK is still doing it, that we have those rules about cookies.
And completely avoids this 2-second hindrance and annoyance, all while getting his information stolen, I guess.
Exactly.
When we look at a list of the top websites according to similarweb.com for the US and for Germany, we see a perfect example of the next difference we did not anticipate before moving here when it comes to internet use between Germany and the US. Somewhat not surprising, the top 3 websites visited in both Germany and the US are the same massive global brands, but number 4...
Absolutely. It makes sense. Google.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com. Probably the same in the UK as well.
And number 5 in Germany was the surprise for us. Specifically, these parts. If you don't know the term top level domain, or TLD for short, this is what the last few letters of a website is called. By far the most popular TLD is of course .com. However, there are more specific and special TLDs known as country code top level domains, or
yeah, like in the UK we have .co.uk.
CCTLDs for short. These are special domain names that are country or region specific and designate which country that particular website is trying to service. For example, .uk for the United Kingdom, or .cn for China, or .de for Deutschland. And Germans and probably the rest of the world are much more aware of CCTLDs than Americans are. In April 2021, Statista released data showing the most used CCTLDs in the world, and we can see that Germany's .de is the
Wow, you're just beating us out with the .uk.
third most used because so many websites in Germany uses this rather than .com. This is one thing we have now had to get used to using, because one thing that you will notice missing from this list of top 10, which might seem a little bit strange, is that the US is not listed in the list of top CCTLDs. One, you might be thinking, well, that's
because you guys don't have it. You just guys have .com, right?
Because the US doesn't have
Sorry, not you guys. The Americans just have .com.
CCTLD. Or 2, that's because the US CCTLD is .com. Well, unfortunately, both of those thoughts are actually wrong. First, .com is not the US's specific website designation, and US does have a CCTLD, and in fact, it was the first invented CCTLD, .us. However, it is extremely rare for Americans to use a website specific to the US that uses a .us address, and I would venture to say that most Americans may not even know it exists. The only website in the US's top 50 most visited websites that even uses .us is
oh, naughty. Pornhub.
Zoom.us. The very quick and the most popular explanation that I have found online from a couple of different forums talking about why the US doesn't use its own ccTLD is because the US invented the TLD system before ccTLDs came along, and therefore we just stuck with what we were already using, .com rather than .us. Of course, this is an oversimplification and not every US site is .com. So then maybe the question becomes, why do other countries use a country-specific TLD rather than just using .com like in the US? And for example, why do we need to use Amazon.de in Germany rather than using Amazon.com? Well, the answer can...
Well, it's because delivery, right? If you're going to get something delivered and there's different charges for delivery, there's different taxes involved, right? No? I don't know.
It can be quite simple. It was very frustrating when we first tried to use Amazon.com over here, and most products we wanted to buy, the seller wouldn't ship to Germany. But luckily, Amazon recognized that we were in Germany, suggested that we use Amazon.de, and that's when we learned this site is specifically targeting a German demographic, and therefore what we find will be able to ship to us over here. There are other pros like the prices default to euros, and for Germans, it actually is in German for them, although we use a special version called Amazon.de in English most of the time. But so therein lies the answer for why countries use their ccTLDs. Users in a specific country are able to determine that a website that ends in their country's ccTLD is going to give them the most pertinent and specific information to them rather than a frustrating site that the information is more internationally generic, or for example, may not actually even ship products that they sell to their country. Now, as a quick side note, just looking at these lists, you can see that there is not always a .de version of popular websites, and in many cases, if you type in a popular website followed by .de, it will just redirect you to the .com version of the website. For example, type in youtube.de and you will immediately just be redirected to youtube.com, although this is not a hard and fast rule for websites. Based on the last difference, this next difference is more obvious to me now, but at first, after moving here, was a very big frustration for me. I went all out in my attempt to integrate into my German life, and also I wanted to give myself a challenge in learning the language. So I switched my phone completely over to being in German and setting my country profile of my phone to Germany. This inevitably changed the way that my phone searches the internet compared to, say, Aubrey's phone, which is still set up with the country profile of the US.
That's what I did when I came to Thailand. I set my phone up to like basically be Thai. Not in Thai, everything's in English, but like, you know, like just the country code and like my apps and stuff are downloaded as if I live in Thailand. So I get it.
The biggest, most annoying difference between searching the internet between my German settings and my old American settings are when I am Googling for football scores. American football. If I want to know what the score to my alma mater's football game over the weekend was, I simply Google Texas A&M football, and on my American device, I didn't even have to click on a website to find the results because Google just told me the score to the last game at the top of their page. However, now that I am searching for scores on a German device, Google works a little bit differently and I guess assumes that a German wouldn't really be interested in that information, so I don't get the simplified, straightforward answer at the top of the page. Rather, I have to scroll through websites to try and find one that has the updated scores on it. Now, based on the last difference with ccTLDs, of course this makes sense because my phone is set up as a German device. If Aubrey and I Google the same thing, we will definitely get different web results, no matter the subject. My phone will often give preferences to .de sites on that topic because the information is geared specifically for a German audience, whereas Aubrey's phone set up as an American device will pull up mainly .com sites or sites in English geared towards her demographic. And finally, of the websites most visited in each country, an interesting thing I noticed is about the American developed and owned app WhatsApp. The first time that we talked about WhatsApp in a video, our German viewers didn't believe us that Americans don't use or don't even know about WhatsApp. And
in the UK, we use WhatsApp. We're exactly the same. In fact, so the other day I thought to myself, why? It's weird. This actually came into my mind. I thought, why do we use WhatsApp so much? I mean, I remember back in the day, it made sense because a lot of people had Android phones and only like a small amount of people had iPhones. But it's changed a lot, and nowadays the majority of the people that I know have iPhones. So really we should use iMessage, but no one does. We still use WhatsApp. And I'm thankful for that, because one day if I decide I want to have a Samsung, then I can have a Samsung because everyone's on WhatsApp. It just makes sense. But in America, I'm guessing it's the other way around, like everyone has an iPhone.
In many cases, while the rest of the world depends on it. To further prove this point, WhatsApp ranks as the number 26 most visited site in Germany, yet isn't even in the top 50 in the US, and honestly, it may even be much lower on the list, but I would have had to create an account and possibly pay to access the information, so forgive me, but just trust me, Americans don't even know what WhatsApp is for the most part. Wow. Something that you can tell from this recent tweet from Casey Neistat as well. I hope that you enjoyed seeing those few ways that surfing the internet has been different in our experience in Germany from the US, but let me know what other differences you may know of in the comments below. To see who made it this far in the video, the random question of the week is...
I'm gonna pause him there, even though he's asking you a random question. Guys, thank you very much for watching. I mean, WhatsApp is an obvious thing, like we use it in England as well, but there's a lot of things. The internet's not that bad in Germany. Yeah, there wasn't much difference between you guys and us. So I think we're quite similar. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I'll see you very soon.